Diplomat to football club CEO. How did that happen? This is Mission at Night, no bullshit business. Hi, welcome to Mission at Night. Here, we uncover the no bullshit business from successful individuals and ignite your dream to success. Today on our show, we're thrilled to welcome Sean Bai, a figure whose remarkable journey has taken him from the halls of diplomacy in China, Middle East, Taipei, to the world of football, where he makes his mark from Valencia Football Club to now leading Geylang International Football Club. Welcome to the podcast, Sean. Could you share with us, your journey, from a diplomat, right, to where you are in sports?
Okay. Anyway, thanks for having me here today. Basically, I started off as a diplomat in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2011. Then I was covering the Northeast Asia desk, mainly covering China as a portfolio for about 1.5 years. And then I moved on to cover the Middle East desk. Then I went on an overseas posting in Taiwan for 3 years. That was in 2018. And then after that, I actually had the opportunity to join Valencia Club de Football in 2018. So without hesitation, I took that job up. I went over. I was there for about 4.5 years. I came back in late 2022. Now back in Singapore, and I joined Geylang International Football Club in Singapore. So this is where I'm at now.
Wow, so let's take our journey part by part, right? Okay, let's touch on the first thing first is, as a diplomat, how do you even become a diplomat?
I want to say by accident, but I know I don't think they will want me to say it that way. But I actually, at that point in time, I was about 26 years old. I was looking for a career that gives me something that I can learn.
Right.
And I think the foreign ministry itself, it offers that opportunity because you get to travel, you get to cover a lot of issues and topics. The workload is quite crazy, but it's quite fulfilling also because you're actually representing your country.
Right.
So, for example, I would say particularly in the period where I was covering the Middle East, I got to travel to places that I normally wouldn't, or I couldn't. I got to, facilitate some kind of exchange between countries that I wasn't very familiar about at the start.
Okay.
But so it was a very good learning experience. And there was also a lot of close contact and proximity with the political office holders, the ministers, and all that. So it's a very, very different experience, So you enter there and you think that, you'll be a civil servant, but actually you are sometimes placed at the front line. You have to be familiar with the topics as well.
Right.
You have to be the one making the recommendation. So that was a very steep learning curve, but I think that's also important at a young age when it's your first career. Yeah.
So you actually went overseas representing Singapore as well, and there was a lot of different political networking, right?
Yeah.
How is it? How does it feel? Because not many of us will have the opportunity to,
So at the start, for me, it was a struggle because, essentially you have to be, you need to put on a very different front when you're out there, when you're engaging people. You can't expect people to come to you and talk to you and share information with you.
Right.
You have to be out there, right? So that was a very big transition. So, but, there's no single solution to solving that. You have to go out there, try, you think about it, how can you improve? And then you try a different method and then you get better at it, right? With more practice, with more confidence, and then you get more comfortable. You get very, used to a different setting with a place full of different people you've never met before. And then from there, I think it becomes very natural to you.
Right.
You go in, you mingle, and then you know how to start off a conversation with people. You already have a lot of, I would say, ammo of information and topics that you are able to talk about. So it becomes very comfortable. Yeah.
So you are one very lucky person, because from a diplomat, right, you had an opportunity to go to Valencia.
Okay.
How did that happen?
So when I finished my posting in Taiwan in June 2018, I was actually on sabbatical leave. So I was taking time to think about what I really want to do from there. Do I want to continue in the ministry? do I want to consider, a change to challenge myself? At the moment, I was, I think, 33 years old. So I thought that was a good timing to take a risk or jump if I ever want to, right? The president of the club at the moment was my former boss in the foreign ministry. So I actually reached out to him. I asked him, as my mentor, what kind of industry do you think would suit me? And then I'll explore a bit more to see if there's something interesting for me, right? It so happens that he was looking for one person to join him as well, a fellow Singaporean to join him in Spain. And also, we had a very fantastic working relationship, friendship back in the ministry. He knew that I love football. I know that he loves football. We played a few times as well. So this question popped up, like, do you think this is something that you'll be interested in? And of course, I jumped at the opportunity.
So when you say that actually at the age of 33, there was a time that for you to actually take a leap of faith and all.
Yep.
Right? Why would you say that? Because 33, you have a stable career.
Yep.
Were you married then?
I was married, yeah. No kids.
Correct.
So actually, this is a very good question. I thought about it a few times before. Like, if I have a daughter now, 3.5 years old. If I'm faced with the same opportunity now, would I have done the same thing? I might not have. Right. So I think it was good at that time I took a break also, because I think in between different projects and assignments, it's also good to take a breather, think back, recollect yourself, and figure out if there are things that you want to improve on, new things that you want to try. Otherwise, it becomes a daily grind. You're just going through the routine year after year. And then when the time you think that maybe you're sick and tired of this, you want to try something else, that might not be the time really, That the moment might have passed. So for example, now, if I have a chance to go overseas to take on something risky, I might have second thoughts. Yeah.
Well, the daughter and all the family and all that.
That's
so
right.
when you were at Valencia, right, what were your roles? What were you doing there?
So I started off the first few months as the chief of staff to the president, who was my former boss. So at that point in time, my main job was to work together with all the different departments, be the bridge between them to the senior management.
Right.
Because it's a very big club, so you have a lot of departments, a lot of people, a lot of smaller teams as well. So you need someone to be there to kind of connect the dots, align them to a certain direction, try to find synergies between the different departments. Otherwise, it's very easy for them to fall into the trap of working in silos, working separately. They're delivering their results, hitting their KPIs, but they might not see certain opportunities that's win-win for the club as a whole. So I think that was a very good transition period for me as well, because I got to see and experience all the different functions in the club.
Right.
I got to participate in a lot of projects with the different departments as well. And after the first few months in January 2019, I actually moved to the academy to be the director general there. So that was also the longest assignment that I have in the club, but I would say also the most fulfilling. About almost 3 years there in the academy. And when I first went in, initially I was wondering as well, it's the academy, I actually want to be closer to the first team. And that year we were in the Champions League, UEFA Champions League. So of course the attraction of being close to the Champions League team is always there, right?
Yes, of course.
And when you talk about the academy, okay, there are kids, then there's a women's team and all that. Like, yeah, but I want to be closer to the action of the first team.
Of course.
But I think after the first few weeks of working with the people there, and of course, with my boss and the club management, we were thinking that it's important to have someone, especially with the confidence of the management, to be there to help to really build it into a very productive, successful project in the academy, in the youth development. So I was very fortunate. I had a good team of people, local colleagues over there. It was difficult at the start because I had to really brush up my Spanish. I didn't speak a word of Spanish when I went to Spain.
Oh, really?
I didn't. So I started taking classes there. And I think 3 times a week for the first few months. Then when I went to the academy, I cut it down to 2 times a week, and then shorter sessions as well. because ultimately the best way to learn is to really throw yourself into the environment.
That's right.
Talk to the people in Spanish. Then you learn, you try. You have to be a bit shameless sometimes. Just try. You can make mistakes. Actually, there are a lot of easy mistakes that we will make when we speak Spanish.
Right.
It can easily be turned into a vulgarity and things like that. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So-
For the benefit of everyone, let's not go there.
Let's not go there, yeah.
But wow.
I'll tell you later. But
How do you even started your first 3 months there as chief of staff? Because
Yeah.
you can't speak
Yeah.
Spanish.
Okay.
Right. And Valencia is a Spanish club, so
Yeah.
they should be speaking Spanish, right?
So I was lucky also because in the office itself, working with most of the departments, the heads of the departments could still speak English, right? So at the start, it was still quite okay to ease into the club and to the working processes, but you realize that that is not their first language as well,
Yes.
and you also realize that they when you enter into any organization, when you're new to it,
Yeah.
it's always a very nice gesture and touch when you speak their language, right? You make an effort to learn the language, and the Spanish people actually appreciate it a lot. They don't expect you to master it. They know that it's difficult, but the effort to learn and to communicate with them in the language is, I would say, a very, very important gesture and also a very good first step to really enter the whole working environment over there.
Right.
And but also personally, one motivation was, you can go into a meeting, you can argue with a colleague or someone about a point, right? I can argue in English, the person can try to debate with me in English, but in the end, there's no outcome because you are speaking in different languages. There are so many.
You couldn't convey the meaning
Correct,
across.
right.
Yeah.
So it comes to a point where I realize that if I want to win an argument, a debate, the best way to convince a local guy is to speak their language and to win it in Spanish. So that to them is okay. I think you have made an effort to really look at the issue, to understand it, and come up with all these things. So I have to accept that. I have to recognize that. So that was a motivation. Yeah,
So I can't speak Spanish, but you should be quite fluent in Spanish now, right?
I am. I actually had to do press conferences and all that in Spanish over there. So I'm still continuing my classes. Now I just do it like once a week now.
So
once a
you're
week.
fluent in Spanish, but you're still doing your
Yeah,
classes.
because when I came back, I didn't want to lose it.
Right.
Because here there wouldn't be many opportunities to speak the language,
That's
to
right.
practice it, right?
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a pity. So I'm having classes every other week just with my same tutor from Valencia. We do it online. It's just to have conversations, talk about anything, talk about what's happening in Singapore.
So that you don't lose the touch of it.
Correct. It's just conversation. So I
Right.
think that is also a very important skill that I pick up over there, and I really want to keep it. I don't want to lose it. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you from a sports academy director, right, to become the CEO of Valencia?
Okay. So in 2022, there was actually a leadership transition in the club. Okay, in May 2022, and at that point, the senior management of the club, they wanted to find someone who knew the ground, spoke the language, had already worked very closely with the people in the club and also with the different stakeholders, whether it's the media, the fans, the players, the coaches, and all that. So that was an opening for me to come in because I've been working the ground for the past few years, particularly in the academy. I was also working closely with the first team, trying to bring players from the academy to the first team. So there was already a lot of rapport there, a lot of trust, and also a lot of awareness of what I'm doing in the club. So it wasn't a surprise for anyone. It was quite easy to ease in rather than, in the transition, you bring in a new phase. People will need to start building everything from ground zero again.
Yes,
from
that's
scratch. And so I think at the moment in time, that was quite a straightforward, I think, decision. Plus, for me, it was also a challenge that I wanted to take up as well. When he spoke to me about it, I think it was a good time to come out of the academy side to test myself if I could operate in the first team level, representing the club, because when you're in the academy, actually you're still kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But when you come to the first team, when you're speaking on behalf of the club, when you go to the press conferences, every single word that you say matters, right?
Yeah.
It makes a difference. Every statement that you make, every action or project that you launch, it represents a lot of things.
Yes,
so
it does.
that's where I got to learn a lot. I mean, I was super stressed as well. But I think the important thing is to, take on the challenge, embrace it, and then, figure it out. You can't control the outcome, right?
Uh-huh.
But I think the important thing is to take on the challenge and then see where it goes and have confidence that, the work that I was doing for the past few years on the ground would pay off.
Right.
So thankfully, it did. The ground, calmed down in about 5 to 6 weeks. The fans were starting to be supportive again.
Uh-huh.
They were coming back with the team. They were motivated with the different stakeholders like the media, with the government. We were back in touch with them. I've always been talking to them, but it kind of changed the whole tide and the whole feeling over there, and it kind of started a new chapter.
Right.
So that was the most stressful, but also very fulfilling in that sense.
It's more stressful than being a diplomat.
Yeah, of course.
Really?
Of course. Because as a diplomat for Singapore, we at my level at that point in time, actually I was working more behind the scenes.
Right.
Working with the different parties and all that. But as at a football club, your audience is very different. And you have nowhere to hide. You have to be out there, right? When you talk about the fans who are your main stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
They are much more emotional than in a corporate or in a government setting.
Okay.
Right? How they look at the club, how they feel attached to it, how they expect you in the club to work and grow the club. It's a very emotive topic.
Right.
It does not necessarily follow logic or economic sense. So you have to be a bit more sensitive in that sense also. And there were a lot more public engagements where I have to come and speak, I have to talk to people as well, I have to make certain decisions. So it was more challenging because you can't really go wrong on that.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think that's the one that really forces you to grow, because you can't make any safe decisions anymore. Right? You have to come out and take a stand.
Right.
On issues.
Yeah. So now you are at Geylang International Football Club.
Yep.
Again, how did this opportunity come about?
I was actually the past year I've been taking a break doing my MBA, and then we have a fellow Singaporean, a good friend of mine who is actually based in the UK. He was working closely with Manchester City, and he hosted a group from Geylang, a delegation from Geylang, a couple of months back. So he told me like, no, you have to go and talk to the boss of Geylang. He's a very interesting guy. I think you guys will hit it off and all that. So he linked us up. I got in touch with him. I spoke to him. We had lunches. We had coffee. We talked about things, and then he has been very, very encouraging. So he was always telling me, look, you have this experience out there. Don't leave the football ecosystem. If you can contribute back to the football ecosystem in Singapore. So from there, we've been talking, and then there was an opening in the club to take over the general manager role. So he spoke to me like, would you be interested in coming on board? And I think, when you have good vibes with someone, especially right at the top, I think that is something that you should never hesitate or waste time in making a decision. So I said, yeah, let's do it. So I've been there for a couple of months now, about 2.5 months, close to 3. It's a very different setup. It's also a very, very different working environment, a very different football culture here.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a valuable opportunity for me to come back and really go down to the ground in Singapore, at the football scene, and to learn about actually how football works here. It's very different, right? You can't just copy and paste a model from elsewhere. You have to understand the context. You have to understand the challenges as well. The opportunities are very different, and the people that you work with are, the background, the history behind it is very different as well.
Yes.
You go to Spain, you talk to someone about, football. They say, yeah, I'm going to give up everything for football. In Singapore, we have a lot of other considerations as well, which rightfully I think are very good considerations. So you have to understand the context and at the people level. So I think it's very important.
Right.
Then that's where I think I can come in and eventually try to, push certain changes, try to change the culture, try to improve the environment, and hopefully, what we all want to do is to improve and grow the sports scene here. And for me, in my case, especially the football scene. Yeah.
So that's it, right? When you look at your whole career, you've just been through the whole journey of your career,
Yep.
right? I'm curious to know, as an experience as a diplomat, right?
Yep.
How did the experience shape your current sports professional outlook? Whether it's in Valencia, whether it's in Geylang International, and
Okay.
vice versa, whenever from Valencia to even current Geylang.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway actually from my time in the foreign ministry was, having to deal with different people with very different agenda, interests, and also very different baggage, background.
Yeah.
So that is, present in any organization, in any industry, right? Whether you go into football, you go to a corporate world, you are going to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
I entered the football world not as a professional coach or as a physical trainer or as a footballer and all that. But I'm going in and I think I found a niche for myself, which is to be the bridge between the different groups in the football club.
Right.
And I think that's very important because, in a club, the setup is drastically different from a normal organization because you have a big part there, which is the football side.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have the other part, which is the non-football side. In certain clubs, what happens is the football side decides everything.
Oh, okay.
They decide everything, right? The football is, you are a football club.
It's a call of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So whatever they decide on, the rest of the structure will support that.
Right.
Then you have some clubs where the non-football side kind of determines the direction for the club, and then try to fit the football around it.
Right.
I don't think there's a right or wrong model here, but I think what it shows is that you really need a good bridge between all these parts. And of course, between the football and non-football part, there are a lot of subgroups and departments in there as well.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be someone to really try to bring everyone together. It's at the end of the day, if we talk in football terms, you look at a team out on the field, right? You can have the best goalkeeper, you can have the best striker. You also need someone in the middle to be your engine room to help to bring all these players together, to be, the one linking them up and all that. So I think that is the role that I've kind of found interesting, relevant to what I've been doing for the past few years, and also the one, of course, I like the action. So, in the center of all the action, working with everyone. So that's the exciting part for me. Yeah.
So when that's, when you say it's an exciting part of it, but I'm sure with every single transition, there's some significant challenges.
Yep.
We mentioned that language was one of it,
Yep.
right? What about any others?
In Spain, you mean?
In Spain,
Okay. In Spain, I think one of the biggest challenge was to get used to a very different work culture, right? In Singapore, sometimes we are a bit too straightforward, a bit too, a nice word is clinical,
Okay, yeah.
but we just want to get the work done and that's it, right? Sometimes we don't really respect that much your personal time and space, whether you're on holiday or after office hours, we are still in touch talking about work and all that.
Yeah.
Over there in Europe, there's a bigger emphasis on respecting the kind of boundaries.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
It doesn't mean that they're not working after office hours, but it just means that you have to be a bit more mindful as well. Or, you have to be a bit more organized as well, right? Try to work everything.
So when you say that, what incident happens?
I think, okay, so basically, you see, the best example is between us Singaporeans, the first thing when I message someone about something, I don't even bother saying hi, how are you and all that. I just go straight to the point. Can you do this for me?
Okay.
Right? And you reply and I'll just say thanks and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? The conversation ends, especially if we do it through WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Right?
Any messages?
Correct. Over there, the first thing, no matter what it is, the first thing will be hi, hola.
Right.
Then hi Sean. Then how are you? And then the conversation will stop until you respond. Most of the time.
And if you don't,
If you don't, of course, if it's urgent, then they'll
continue.
can I call you and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they respect a lot of all these boundaries a bit more. I think that of course I had a good laugh. Like, okay, you see, okay, actually you guys don't have to say all that to me. You can just
Go
ask
straight
me
to the point.
directly,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So that was something that I had to be much more mindful about. And in terms of, sometimes in the middle of the night I have an idea, my habit is just, I'll send it to you, right?
Right.
Say, hey, let's talk about this or let's look at this. But I don't expect you to
Reply
respond
me.
immediately in the
Yeah.
middle of the night. But my point is, I don't want to forget about it. I'm just going to send it to you.
Yeah.
But over there, I started to realize that I shouldn't be doing that. I should just take note of it, tomorrow send it. Because there are actually a lot of stuff when they're holding the office phone, they might turn it off after hours.
Ah, right.
Yeah, unless it's that day is a long day, you have projects or all that, but some of them will turn it off. So it was a hint to me. I was like, okay, I think let's respect that kind of boundaries. Let's it's just a matter of organizing my to-do list a bit more. I don't have to send it now, I can send it in the morning, So small changes to also better integrate into the whole environment over there. Yeah.
So with that, right, then what's the difference between Valencia and Geylang? Because Valencia is a huge club,
Yeah.
right? Huge fan base, huge stadium. And our local football scene here is way smaller,
Yeah.
right? What's the obstacle you're facing here?
I think, of course, the scale of things is drastically different.
Mm-hmm.
The level of whether on the field or off the field is very different as well.
Right.
The challenge, I wouldn't say challenge. I think the transition is, to really know where we are at, and then you adjust all the expectations accordingly, right? If you are talking about a budget of 100 million over there in Spain, then I'm not going to talk about it over here. You have to adjust it accordingly, right? If you are talking about a footballer in Spain who has been training at the professional high level from the 5 or 6 years old until he's 21, he's at a very different level.
Yes.
But the kind of expectations for him is very different from the kids here who maybe they didn't have the chance to be training from 5 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old. They are coming in, they might have been training as a CCA. So you have to be a bit patient over there. You have to understand the background over there. And you have to see that, okay, there's a lot more work that we have to do before we can talk about the next few things. So it's just adjustment of the starting point and also the angle. What we want to do in the football scene here is, is very much like the education system. If you want to have a new generation of scientists to be in the bioscience industry next year, you can't do it in 1 year. You actually have to start young, get younger students interested in this program, in this pathway. They go through a few years of...
So to plan the whole development.
It takes time, right? Things that are rushed in 1 year, I don't think it's natural or sustainable. Right. So it's the same with football and sports. You need time. You need to let them grow. You need to give them a space to make mistakes and really learn and step up. So I think this is the biggest adjustment in terms of expectations, and after that, it's much more straightforward. Yeah.
So when you look back at your career, your whole career span, is there any point in time, right, you actually doubt that, actually, am I in the right line? Actually, why did I even do this? Why did I even go to Valencia? Why did I become a diplomat? Any time that you doubt yourself?
I doubt it every day.
Every day?
Yeah, I mean, but when I was in the foreign ministry, to be very frank, it was a very steep learning curve, right? And because it was also my first career, so moving up from the university, you start realizing that, oh no, you don't really have that luxury of planning things based on your own timing.
Yeah.
Right? You have to serve a bigger organization. So that's where it becomes a bit more hectic. And then of course, like, wow, is this, do I think I can go far in here? So it wasn't about, like I hate this, I don't like this and all that, but more of, am I a good fit here? Can I grow here? Can I do things here? Can I have an impact here? Right? But of course, when you're going through that, and then you have doubts, but when you are doing things and you start to accomplish something, small steps, low-hanging fruits, and you realize, maybe I can. That helps to ease, away some of these doubts, lingering doubts. Of course, then there'll be other questions like, can I make the next step? Can I step up? Can I do more things as well? So I realized that it's a constant feeling, I would say. But the key is to make it into a positive one, to really wake up and think, the easiest way is wake up and I dread going to work on Monday. I don't want to go work.
The Monday blues.
I'm just looking forward to Friday. I'm just looking forward to the time I can take my leave.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't stay long in this job. Maybe I'll find something better, right? But to ask yourself instead, like, when you wake up, like, okay, actually today, what do I want to do? I think, okay, these things, I'm not so sure. Then maybe can I spend some time to improve myself there? Can I make some changes here and all that? So just to change the direction of those questions a bit. And I think it becomes at least a bit more positive, a bit more outcome driven as well. Right. I mean, after the foreign ministry, going to football was a huge blessing. It's something that I love also. I didn't have that question anymore. I was working almost every day of the week, because Monday to Friday you are working in the training ground, in the office. Saturday, Sunday you have all the games. Right? So actually it's a 7-day work week. 7-day work week, right? And then you have to work long hours also, because of all the training sessions, a lot of meetings and all that. So more longer working hours, but I actually enjoyed myself more, because I was so in love to say, I want to go there, I want to make some changes, I want to do something new, I want to try something, I want to be with my team. So I realized that is also a very, very important factor.
Yeah.
If you wake up feeling that I'm dreading going to work, then maybe there's something that you have to tweak, right? But once you find something that you enjoy, something that you find you want to make a difference in, then it becomes easier. Yeah. Tiring, but mentally when you're a bit more motivated and hungry, then it becomes easier.
So would you say that because of what you foresee the outcome, that is your focus, right, and drive towards whatever they're looking at, whether it's in the career of Valencia or even as a diplomat?
I think my time in Valencia and now in Geylang, my biggest takeaway is that I am actually working with people, right? And whatever decision you take actually has a very direct impact on their livelihood, or their lives. And it might involve their families as well.
Yeah.
Right? If you tell a 14-year-old boy, that you have no future in football, it changes his life drastically.
Yes.
If you tell him that, yes, you have, but then 2 years later you tell him, I'm sorry, no, it affects his life as well. Yeah. Right? So that is a part that I am extremely careful about, and I try my best to, really make sure that any engagement, any relation is much more genuine,
right?
Much more transparent, and also, in any way, hopefully I can find a positive impact for all the individuals that I'm in touch with and working. Because you see, if I tell you that, look, Tilly, you don't have a future as a footballer. I mean, you don't have one.
Definitely don't have. I'm way past it.
Just, imagine you're a player, right? And I tell you that you don't have a future in the football scene. There are two ways about it. A lot of clubs, not only in Singapore, but out there as well, the easiest way is to send you a text message, send you a letter and say, we are no longer keeping you in the club. Yeah. And that's it. You're out. Right? The other way,
painful.
The other way is to be with you constantly throughout the whole process. I mean, during the year as well, during the season, to say, look, you have to improve on this and this and this. Maybe you're not meeting the mark. Yeah. But I'll be transparent with you. You have to try, work on these things. And when the time comes, and I have to tell you that, I cannot keep you in the team anymore, there's nothing wrong with that. The decision itself is a correct decision, right? But I can confidently tell you, say, look, I think we've reached here, the decision is I cannot keep you.
Right.
For you, it's still going to be a very difficult and tough news to take.
Yes.
But it's not going to be a surprise. And you probably had the runway and time to think about where you want to go next or what you want to do.
It's been cushioned in a way.
So it's also, telling you to, okay, you have to go now. And sitting down and say, okay, if you have to go now, what can I help you with?
Right.
Can I place you in another club? Can I, even help you move into a different industry? You might not be a footballer, but maybe, I can see that I think you can be a good physio. Why not? Right? I cannot, train you to be a physio, but I can point you in a certain direction. I can help you make some connections.
Career growth.
And maybe next time you can be helping me back in the club as well. So there are a lot of all these possibilities that, with a little bit of effort, I think it makes a difference for the people. Right? Indian football is a very competitive, it's a very results-oriented industry or business, but the important thing is, I think we can make a difference on how we treat the people, how we engage the people. fans as well. You want to be honest with them. We are going to be champions next year. We're going to be this. It's easy to say that.
Yes, of course.
Right?
And they loved hearing that thought.
They like hearing that. But it's, the moment you throw out these things, the question you have to ask yourself, are we going to deliver that?
Is the expectation set?
Or is it, just saying it to get them happy for today and then get them off my back, right? But the other thing is, this thing came to me and touched my heart in 2020 during COVID.
Okay.
Back then in Spain, all the whole football scene came to a standstill. It stopped. Every club had financial cash flow problems as well, right? Across all the industries. One of my colleagues, he told me this thing. He said, no, I think this was just before COVID. Sorry, this was just before COVID. Just before COVID, he told me. Fans were upset about results and all. He told me, he said, Sean, I think it's okay if we are in a tough position and we can't do more, or let's say invest more. It's okay. Let's just be honest with the people. It's the same as, when I'm with my son and I can't afford, maybe I lost my job, right? I can't afford a nice Christmas present that he wanted. I just have to be upfront with him at the start, say, Papa, I can't afford this, but I will try to work hard and get it for you at some point,
Manage expectations.
Correct.
Yeah.
So to be honest, your relationship has to be based on that honesty and transparency. So he said that to me, and I remember until today, because unfortunately this friend actually passed away during COVID.
Oh wow, shucks.
He was hospitalized and he passed away. So this thing has stuck with me until today, and I make it a point also that every interaction with any person, let's try to make it a bit more genuine, a bit more authentic, and then there's nothing to hide. Right? In anything, this is what I can do, and let's try. If not, we can't, and let's move on from there.
So when you mentioned all this, I was trying to reflect back, because you mentioned actually you're helping them, their families, they're all they have a bit of mentors, and that's your support. My question to you is actually, what about your own personal support? How is your wife taking it? How's your family taking it? Because you mentioned 7 days in the office, right? She's not gonna see you in most period of time. How do you manage? How do you cope?
I think, firstly, for my family, for my wife, for my kid as well, they know that this is something that keeps me alive. I'm really very passionate about it, and I think they can see it. So I think that's the part where they are a bit more supportive in the sense that, I know he's enjoying this. I know he's trying to build something, he's trying to make an impact. We should support it, right? Of course, I still have to be a husband, be a son, be a father as much as I can, right? And so the good thing is that it's a very tiring schedule. It's very punishing, especially if you have to travel as well for away matches and all that. But then I try to find pockets of time where I finish my work and then I have this pocket of time. I'll head home, I'll meet my wife. She's a dance instructor, so she has her timing, her schedule is a bit different as well. So I can do that. When we were in Spain, my daughter, when I pick her up back from school, there's a afternoon period where actually there's no work. Then I'll pick her back, we have dinner, and then I'll head back to the training ground for the evening session. So it's about, finding the pockets of time of my own schedule, match it with that of my family, and also being a bit more disciplined.
So there's a lot of compromising that happens.
Of course, there will always be compromises, right? Even if I'm not in this line, even if I'm in a 5-day work week kind of career, there is also the possibility of me saying, okay, Saturday I want to head out with my buddies. And I'm not at home. I'm not spending time with my family. So end of the day, I think that a punishing schedule, what it forced me to do is also to be a bit more disciplined and organized in terms of I have to dedicate this time to myself, to my family. Right? And I think you brought a very good point about personal care also. Right? So I think that is something that's not often talked about.
It's not.
I generally try not to burden others with any worries and concerns I have. And I think for a lot of leaders, this is the very common trend where you're actually quite alone up there. right?
It is.
You are coping with all the problems. You don't really want to tell people. When you go to work, you have to put on the brave front as well. You have to be positive, right? Last week I was having a very, very busy day, quite a tough day, and then I met a friend recommended this guy to me, and he wanted to be a volunteer.
Oh, wow.
I was so tired, but I went in. But I also found, that this topic is something that I'm so happy about. And then I started to talk and all that, and then I had to say, okay, we're not talking too much, right? So he was also surprised. Hey, actually, I didn't expect you to be so excited about this thing, sharing with me as well. I'm a nobody here and all that. So I think it's always important to stay anchored to what is your initial motivation to be in here.
Right.
What do you want to achieve? So that's important. That keeps you going. But at the same time, what I've learned along the way is you need to take certain breaks. It doesn't have to be alone. It can be with friends.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be with your colleagues. It can be any other activity, So sometimes I'll meet my friend late night just to go out and have some drinks, play a game of pool, play some darts, just to get out of it. Disconnect. You have to disconnect,
yes.
Right? We are a bit like the computers where once in a while you have to switch it off as well.
Yeah.
You have to restart it and then you come back to it again, fresher. You might not solve the problems that you're facing at work, but you just have to have the reset, disconnect, and come back a bit fresher with a clearer mind and go back into it again. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it, I want to touch on a little bit on the local sports scene.
Yep.
Because for you, right, you've been to an overseas sports scene and now you're back to local sports scene. And the thing is that in the Asian context, right, most of us, we are very grades driven.
Yep.
Right, we are looking at very academical kind of a thing, right? And in fact, most of us, potential athletes, in fact, drop off along the way.
Yep.
Right. Now, when you are where you are, right, actually, how you have seen Singapore sports scene, or in fact, the Asian sports scene differently?
Okay, I think actually all across Asia and even in Singapore, we are actually very, very supportive of the sports scene. I mean, firstly, as consumers, right, we watch a lot of sports, whether it's football, whether it's NBA, whether it's, swimming as well, right? When there are big events and we have our athletes representing us, competing, we actually get excited about it. I think when you look at our national athletes win medals overseas, or people do get, they're plugged in, they're following closely and all that. So, firstly, I think over here, we know that we are a few steps behind, let's say, Europe.
Yeah.
But we are also really hoping to see something happen. And we actually want to have something to celebrate.
Right.
Right. And sometimes whether it's online or with friends, you actually hear a lot of people like, wow, I really hope one day we can see our guy, maybe playing in the Premier League, playing in Europe, right, in the first division. So we actually want to see some success there. Right. Some people think that, our people are a bit lukewarm. They don't really care about the Singapore sports. Actually, they do. But they just don't know where they can find that next flicker of hope or the next generation that's going to step up and all that. So I think people are waiting to see. For the athletes and for their immediate environment, I think the biggest thing or biggest question that they have is there a pathway for me?
Yes.
Right? You can be results driven. You can be focusing a lot on your school. But I think that doesn't take away, any possibility of you having a professional career in sports. Or let's talk about football, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be a successful footballer, you should also be a good student, right? Because fundamentally, it's about the attitude, right? The attitude of wanting to achieve something, breaking your own limits, improving yourself constantly. As we mentioned earlier, football is a bit like education as well.
Yep.
It's a long development. You have to be upgrading, improving yourself all the time. I think people, of course, have the conception that, there are no options or career possibilities for footballers in Singapore. But I think it's also down to us to try to create that space.
Yeah.
Right? And because the moment we create that space, a lot of people see, hey, that's possible, and they'll tag along. I remember when, whether it was Joseph Schooling who won the swimming gold medal.
Yes, Olympic Games.
A lot of kids start to say, I want to swim as well.
Yes.
But people I say, hey, actually, it's possible for a Singaporean to do that, right? The path is a bit different. Maybe I cannot take the same path as him, but it showed that it was possible. I think it's the same as football. So nowadays, what I've noticed is in Singapore, parents are actually a bit more supportive. Okay, actually not a bit, much more supportive of their kids, focusing and spending more time in sports.
Yeah.
Especially at a young age, whether it's up to 12, 13 years old. Parents are investing in the children, whether it's sending them to academies or clubs, or sending them for overseas tournaments. Parents are actually flying over as well to support their kids at overseas tournaments. I think back in our time, I didn't even have pair of football boots.
Yeah.
I had to borrow from my neighbor to play, So, but now it's very different. Kids, probably Christmas, they receive a new pair of boots, the latest model and things like that. So, parents are very supportive now.
Yeah.
Parents are also much more invested in the sense that they look deeper, and they ask a lot more questions. What about the nutrition of my son?
Yeah.
What about the physical conditioning of my son?
Yeah.
Can I do more things outside of the training? So, I think this is a very healthy trend. People are interested. The key is after that, from let's say 16 onwards, where do you have to make some tough decisions, right? Should you continue pursuing football? Should you, just make it a hobby and then focus on your career as well? I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think it is something that you can try to combine as much as possible. There will be a lot of sacrifices. But the same as when you want to be a professional footballer, you have to, you have to sacrifice a lot of things as well, right? Your personal time, your social life, you have to sacrifice. Even when you talk about SEA Games athletes, they have sacrificed a lot of their personal time with family and friends as well, right? To be where they are.
Yeah.
So it's essentially the same. You choose, right?
So would you say that actually, whether or not you're an athlete, right? Whether or not you're a student, right? Whether or not you're someone just embarking on a corporate world, whether or not you're an entrepreneur, your own startup, right?
Yep.
It's similar across the board.
Of course. I think, end of the day, no one should expect an easy way or easy path that will present itself to you in whatever you do, right?
Yeah.
I remember there's this statistic that, if you want to pick up a new skill, it takes like 10,000 hours of practicing or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I think we can debate about the number, but the concept is correct, where whatever skill or field that you want to excel in, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of time. I think, all the top professionals, whether it's in the corporate world or in the sporting world, the common thing across all these fields is that they have put in a lot of effort in it. Right. There might be once in a while, a generational talent and all that who comes in and say, yes, he's that good. But then the second question is, if you have success or if you're doing well, can you sustain that success at that level? So a lot of people with talent, if they don't mix it with hard work, they usually fall off the radar gradually.
Yes.
But those who have managed to stay at the top of the game is because they have been maintaining the kind of work behind the scenes, to keep them going and keeping their level high.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a very important lesson over there.
So would you say that actually, in fact, because of whatever you're saying, I'm trying to, in a way, summarize it, right? Is that resilience, right? It's actually one of the resilience, sorry.
Yep.
Well, I don't know why I couldn't pronounce all of a sudden,
Spanish.
Resilient, right? No, Spanish maybe. Right? Resilient, right? Is actually the kind of a key, right? Journey to success, right? Whether or not, right? You are looking at which goals there's end.
Yeah. So I think when you talk about resilience, there are also quite a few aspects to it, right? There's a mental part, there's a physical part, there's how you take it. Generally, what it connotates is being able to soldier on even when you are in difficult position. But I think the other part that we have to elaborate a bit more as well is to embrace failure,
right,
or mistakes.
Right.
Resilience is not only about, you are doing a fantastic job and then against all odds and then you succeed.
Yes,
it's also a learning process where you commit a mistake, you are not doing good enough, and then you realize that, no, I can take a step up, and then you continue. So I think that's the part that we probably have to emphasize a bit more as well. Yeah. Because sometimes all of us are not perfect, right? We have to make mistakes along the way.
Definitely.
And the important thing is how you can stay resilient despite all these mistakes. You don't feel ashamed like, I made this mistake. Actually, like, okay, I'm going to learn from it. I'm not going to commit it again.
Yeah.
Right. And then you move on from there. Yeah.
So I want to touch on mentorship.
Okay.
Right? Because at the start, right, you mentioned that your mentors brought you over and all.
Yeah.
Right? How important is that?
I think the mentorship part is very beneficial for both sides. Okay, I mean, for the mentee, the most important thing is that you have someone who is already out there in the field telling you that this is possible.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is the biggest impact on the younger mentee, because especially if you are stepping into the working world for the first time, it's such a big transition. You have no clue, right? And then to know that you have someone that you can talk to and someone who probably understands what you're talking about, that one makes a world of difference.
Yes.
To say that, I am slowly learning, it's a very steep learning curve. I'm taking some time, I'm taking a bit longer to get there. The person can tell you that actually that's normal. And then you feel, okay, at least that's normal. I'm not like lagging behind everyone else, right? The other part is, I think, for the mentor itself, they're actually learning as well. Every time when they're sharing, they're trying to relate to the younger generation. Actually, sometimes it's not about teaching them. It's about sharing and, hey, why are you facing this difficulty and stuff like that. So I had a mentee once when I was, she's in Singapore, I was in Valencia. We would have regular calls. She actually asked me nothing related to a career, but a simple thing like, if I move overseas to study, I'm not sure if my boyfriend is supportive. What should I do?
Yeah. It's common, right? Most of us, we will start off a career.
Yeah, but I didn't sign up to be a mentor for relationships, right? I signed up to more about career advice, right? But, then it became a very simple conversation, not just between friends. Like, yeah, actually back then, if I had this, I probably would have done this. Or I was thinking when I was moving overseas, then my conversation with my wife. And then, so it allowed me to really think back, reflect on a lot of things as well, sharing with her. And then, in the end, I couldn't give her a solution, right? In the end, she has to make the decision or how to deal with it. But it was a good sharing session, both for her and for myself as well. Yeah.
So for you right now, right, if I were to turn back time all the way back, right, when you first started off, right?
Yeah.
Would you have done anything differently?
I think it is I always think about this very frequently. Like, back then, if I've done this, maybe it would be better now and all that. But I realized that, that is also the unique pathway that has brought me to where I am today. And it's easy to say, let's turn back time and avoid certain traps or mistakes that I've made. But you're saying that in hindsight, because you've actually learned from it already. So the important thing is actually to go through the entire process. It's important. You can't skip any steps, right? So I think with my character, if I've gone back then, I would look at the choices and I would just taken the same choices all over again. I'll be back here again and then
I see. So with that, right, in mind, I want to touch on a little bit because you're a very unique character, you're touching the local scene and all, right? Now, in hindsight, right, what would you hope that the local scene, sports scene, would have been different?
I hope that, everyone who is mildly interested in the scene will actually try to make a difference in their own way in the scene, okay? And also try to be a pioneer and try to push for certain things in the scene. If we are all going to sit back and wait for things to happen, chances are it's not going to happen or it's not going to be good, right? All these changes, if you want to build something big, something wildly successful, something impactful, it eventually, ultimately comes down to us to say, let's be the one to start that change. And like I said earlier, everyone is looking for the spark. Everyone is looking for someone to test the water and say, hey, actually, this water is not boiling. It's safe to go in. And then people start coming in, right? I'll share one example. Like now I'm also trying to, raise more awareness about the football scene in Singapore. I'm trying to bring in more stakeholders and sponsors, partners for the club, right?
Yeah.
The very common threat or reaction that I actually get is, Singapore football, I think no lah. CSR I can, but football I think better not, right? So there's that whole perception. But what I think we also need to take a bet is, look, all of us want to be proud of our football, right? We want to be proud of our athletes, of our sports scene. And I think especially football is extremely impactful in Singapore.
Uh-huh.
It's the one that can mobilize the majority of people in Singapore, right? If we are doing well, I am very sure everyone's going to get excited about it. Everyone's going to be tuning in to watch it.
Uh-huh.
So what I want to say is, take a bet, come in, find an area that you are interested in, passionate about, or comfortable with, and invest in it, right? If you are interested in education, come in, invest in, the youth.
Yeah.
It's not very far from what you're doing, right?
Yes.
But you are actually contributing to the scene. You're making a difference to the lives of the people,
Uh-huh.
the players, the coaches, and all that as well. And I think when all the efforts of people from different areas coming in, are put together, then it really builds up to something much more stronger.
Yeah.
It creates a momentum where more people want to come in and be part of it as well. And once you share that kind of passion and say, hey, actually I'm in football, now for me when there's a game, I want to invite my friends.
Yeah.
And then my friends are in this scene, then they want to invite their friends as
That's
well,
right.
Then there's a multiplier effect. So I think that's the one that can really create a ripple in the whole scene and lead to a much bigger change that eventually will come down the road. I don't know how long, but this first step is very important. Yeah.
So with that on, and then once you mentioned about impacting the young ones and all. So here, right, I'll ask you for your advice, right, to give any young entrepreneurs, any young ones that are starting out their own journey, whether it's in corporate entrepreneurs or even as athletes, right, who are facing challenges.
Correct.
What advice will you give them?
I would say try everything. Try something different. Try to put in more effort in whatever you're doing. Even when you are doubting yourself, just try, right? Every day, when we talked about, even in my case, like going to work and all that, like how do I keep myself motivated and positive about it? Essentially, every day you just have to say, I'm going to try. I'm going to go.
Just try, guys.
Yeah.
Just try.
So can I start a new line called "Just Try It" or something?
Why not?
Yeah, because ultimately, I think there's a lot of. I think especially in Singapore, this is something very important. I feel that there is a general fear of failure.
Right.
General fear of asking stupid questions. General fear of not being the same as everyone else.
Yes.
So I think especially for the younger generation, they are in a very good sweet spot where they can try a lot of things. You want to try to be an entrepreneur, just go and try. What's the downside of it, right? You fail, you just start from zero. You don't get that much allowance to spend. It's okay. You can start it all over again. But if you don't try and you are just going to repeat what everyone else is doing, the established way, then you must also accept that you are not going to have a different life. You're going to have exactly the same kind of life and maybe not as good as others, right? So really try to be different, try new things as well. The world is your oyster. Go out there, try. You want to live in another place, try football in another club, go and do it. Why not? When you have the time and chance, go and do it. If you are not sure about something, just try. If it fails, then you have learned something that this is not going to work, right? If you are going to, want to pursue something, then try your best, try your best into it. Try your best in making a difference. And then at the end of the day, whether it succeeds or not, it doesn't really matter. The more thing you have tried, you have gone through it, you come away a much better person. Yeah.
So that one word is actually very important because if you don't try, right, then nothing's going to happen.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I think there was that saying, right? Like you miss 100% of shots that you don't take.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. That's exactly right. So as we wrap up, right, today's podcast, right, I want to probably ask you, right, to leave some of the young listeners, right, a few words of encouragement or any mantra that you have, right, to keep them motivated, right, in their own path.
Okay, actually something, very interesting popped up, in my feed recently, and there's this thing called the red car theory.
Red car theory.
Okay, so let's try it. Right, I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Really, how many red cars did you notice passing by you today when you came to this recording?
Wow. Just to recall. Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, but just to recall, I don't know, maybe about 2 to 3.
Okay.
I think.
So you're unsure, right?
Yeah.
Probably yes, but you're unsure. Then the second thing is, if let's say tomorrow I say for every red car that you spot, I'm going to give you $50. Right? Do you think you'll be able to give me the exact number of red cars?
For sure, I'll take a picture and send it to you.
Right? So, so I think the lesson behind that is that, actually there are a lot of opportunities that are passing by us every single day. Right? Is whether we have opened our eyes to look out for them. Actually, they are all there. Right? So don't wait for someone to tell you that the red car is there, I'll give you $50. Actually, the red car is there. There's your opportunity. So look out for them. They are everywhere and grab them. Yeah, that's my main sharing that I wanted to share today.
Thank you very much, Sean. I hope this podcast has ignited your mission. Join us for more no bullshit stories from successful individuals on Mission Ignite. See you guys again. Hi guys, thank you for listening. If you like what you have just heard, follow us for more content like this.